I'm going to compare my trailer, Pied Piper, to your next, and show how I used, developed, and or challenged the conventions. Both the trailers start with sound at the start. The sound in your next is kind of like sarcastic. It's kind of like a happy song, but it's like ironic because we know that it's a horror film. I chose to use the sound that I chose at the start because straight away the audience know all is not well. I used the sad flute sound because straight away it signifies the Pied Piper and it is really uneasy and distressing. Screen conflict with the antagonist positions the woman on the left in the kitchen with the antagonist peering through the window on the right. And in my first shot of both the antagonist and the protagonist on screen is the female victim, again a female victim, walking on the left, and the Pied Piper following her, breathing down her neck on the right. I like the editing in your it was edgy and sketchy and it made the audience feel uneasy, so I incorporated this type of editing a few times. Elements of the antagonist as asserted through slow walking in both trailers, signifying that they're much calmer than the victim and asserting their authority. The extreme close-up of the boot in Y next in height and sound really exaggerates this authority. Although in the Pied Piper, the Pied Piper is walking through the graveyard, connotating causing death, and he's walking slowly. However, I should have had a tighter frame on him, because that open framing caused him to lose some of that threat. I took inspiration from the quick editing in Your Next because it creates immense tension and you feel like something's going to happen. In my trailer, the quick chopping of the antagonist cutting pictures of the victim gives us a real reason to fear the Pied Piper. The chopping is almost like the antagonist doing voodoo on the victims, and the sound mimics the racing of a heartbeat to add even more tension. To improve on my trailer, I'd heighten the sound of the scissors to make it even more obvious and really exaggerate that. In Your Next, it's the animals that are gonna get you. Meanwhile, in my trailer, it's he will manipulate your mind. Both read as personal threats directed straight at the audience to terrify them. At the end of Your Next movie jump, where it's all gone quiet and the woman's searching under the table, and then the sudden emergence of the animal's head is created to really shock the audience. In mine, I used the victim peering across the railway track like she'd seen something, but we don't know what yet. And then, bam, the Pied Piper suddenly appears in an extreme close-up. I used this as a big, obvious audio cue at the end of the trailer to signify it's ended, hopefully leaving the shock of it imprinted in the audience's head, and they'll hopefully come out the cinema thinking, wow, that the Pied Piper got me at the end, or laughing to their friends, still thinking about it, saying, that made me jump, and hopefully still thinking about it in the car when they're leaving, which is ultimately the aim of a marketing campaign at the end of the day. Here's my final magazine cover, Pure Film, which was very much inspired from the Total Film magazine cover. I love the colour scheme of this magazine, the reds, the white and the black. Despite the Star Trek theme, I believed I could develop it into a horror. I particularly liked the image looking dominating Pearson with his high eye line, and I had this sort of idea for my antagonist. The masthead I used for my magazine was very similar to the Total magazine. I used impact font, which I thought was very bold and stood off the page very well. It was easily readable. I called my magazine Pure Film because I wanted to make a mainstream magazine, so that being a mainstream magazine, it would reach a much bigger audience than, say, an indie horror magazine. I used blood splatters on the masthead to glorify the magazine cover and signify that it was a horror issue, a special issue of the mainstream magazine. I used films of other genres in on the top of the page in the skylines to reinforce that it was mainstream again, and I used red so that it would stand up. I decided to do a black and white image for the antagonist as well as total film because I believed that the black and white does well to shadow the antagonist's identity, to make him look darker and mysterious and cold. I manipulated the eyes of the antagonist on Photoshop to signify evil and to draw the reader in, staring them dead in the eye. As for the main title, it's similar again. I used World Exclusive to draw readers in, but adapted the tagline Terrifying instead of Coolest. I did this because my genres are horror. I also used the opacity tool on Photoshop to create a ghostly effect on the text saying Pied Piper to further connote horror. I placed them in a similar position to total film because I wanted to make my cover as professional as possible. For the words that I wanted to stand out more, I made them bigger and bolder, and on one of the cell lines I did a backdrop so that it would stand out more over the black, so that the magazine cover can be easily readable for the audience, so it's drawn into the most interesting parts of it. Here is the classic Scream poster, and here is my poster. I wanted to recreate the iconic, terrified look of the victim, and by doing this I also wanted to showcase the victim as a selling point of the movie to draw even more audiences in. I used the words "Have you paid the piper" as a repetitive slogan. This gives the audiences a strong reason to fear the piper without even seeing him, because just looking at the victim they can see that they are terrified. The problem with the image is, unlike the Scream poster, half her eye is covered by her hair. This would make her lose emotion. Again, though, I manipulated the eye to draw people in, so that it looks like the victim's looking directly at the audience. The institutional information at the bottom of the poster, because I wanted to make my poster as professional as possible, like Scream. I made sure I got the same universal accreditation font. I made sure it all lines up perfectly. Scream used the third colour on their colour scheme, the colour blue, which gives the poster a more refreshing feel and gives it a third dimension. Because my colour scheme is red, I used a light brown, which I found was more exciting than just using white and red, because it was flat. And also the brown complemented the victim's manipulated eye colour. Is a alternative poster of the Pied Piper to further kick on my campaign. I placed him with high eye line cover, looking over the text to show his dominance. I placed him next to the ratings, also high in the frame, to signify their dominance, and to show both the film's success, further enticing more people into the film. I used the same "Have you paid the Pied Piper" to further deepen the Piper's threat.